Time being 10:10, I'm going to open the public hearing on HB 660 and recognize Representative Ohm to introduce the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm here to introduce House Bill 660 with an amendment requiring historic racing facilities to compensate their host communities with 10% of the HHR winnings. So the current situation we have is that we've had the expansion of historic horse racing into fairly large properties without having a opt-in referendum, which was normally part of previous casino bills. And in fact, when we've done expanded gaming, we've had an opt-in provision for Keno and for sports betting. So we don't have the opt-in situation for the HHR bill. Consequently, we don't have any mitigation for local factors involved with large casinos. So as I pointed out in previous testimony, which I had passed out and I would introduce again into the record, we have some evidence from a study called Casino Crime and Community Costs that indicate the projected costs for a city that's going to host a large casino. And I will introduce this into the record. I don't have to go through the bill again, the copy, because you've already heard all this commentary. But the goal of the bill is to provide this mitigation to the cities and towns. I'm asking for 10% mitigation. I have an amendment in the bill, which is in front of you, with the changes highlighted in yellow. And the amendment makes the charities whole from the bill itself. The original bill as drafted would take a little ding to the charities, a little ding to the state. This leaves the charities whole, leaves the state whole, and only takes the 10% to be mitigated to the local communities solely out of the operator's take. And that's the bill. Questions?
Yes, do we have questions? Representative Schamberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for taking my question, Representative. The 10% mitigation fee, why 10% versus maybe not 5 or 6? Was this to make it easy for someone to figure out percentage-wise?
It's called negotiation. I'll ask for 10, I'll sell it for 5. Save some time.
Other questions? Yes, Representative Spar.
Thank you, Chair. You said that the purpose was to raise more revenue for the municipalities. Is there an issue right now or with these municipalities and not having enough revenue coming from the tax assessment and other areas?
Yeah, that's a perpetual issue, but this doesn't deal with that longstanding problem of municipal spending and how to allocate funds. What it does do is try to address a specific incremental cost. And that goes back to the document that I've passed out previously to try to define what is that incremental cost and can we get some mitigation just for that cost. It won't do anything else to the city budget, but it'll cover the expenses that the city's likely to incur should they have this kind of a enterprise in their district.
Thank you.
Representative Doucette.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for taking my question. Do you have reason? Did the city come to you and say they've incurred fees, charges, upticks? Because we've heard testimony about this, and the testimony we've heard is negligible. So, and this would be, in effect, a retroactive tax.
Yeah, it's not intended to be retroactive. It's intended to be proactive going to the future. The cities and towns have not come to me. They haven't experienced any mitigation issues at the present time. And in fact, the mitigation issues are likely to be down the road, particularly in the 3-year, in the time period after about 3 years is when you start to see these costs come into effect per the study. So no, there's no cost right now. There's no need for a instant mitigation right now. But I think down the road, it would be appropriate to set the structure in place for such mitigation.
Follow up?
Thank you, and thank you for taking my follow-up. Like I said, we've heard testimony about potential impacts. Those haven't come to fruition, and maybe a retroactive word isn't the one I'm using. We passed legislation. This was a component of that testimony we heard at the time we passed the legislation, and this is a component that the legislature chose not to include. So, I'm in a town that has a gaming facility. My police chief and fire chief and subsequent other public service chiefs haven't directed me that they're having issues with this. So I just wanted to clear up my statement. If you're seeing something different in Nashua, Manchester, and others, we're not getting an outcry from the municipalities that host these charitable gaming facilities. So, and like I said, we've heard the testimony and decided against this type of tax.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments, and I agree with you. They haven't seen any cost issues or concerns right now. I bring this up primarily from past casino bills that have been run through Ways and Means over the past 14 years. And typically, on a comprehensive casino bill, there's a lot of additional language beyond just a simple authorization of a device, which we had in the HHR authorizations. We didn't have language for many other factors. The other factor that I'm talking about, which had been in prior casino bills, which did not pass, but had been in the proposals in comprehensive casino bills, were for local mitigation. There's a bill that Representative Ames had, which I took some language from. There's been other bills that set aside funds for various concerns. And because we didn't have a comprehensive casino bill with the HHR enabling legislation, I feel that we should think about some of these additional factors that were determined to be important for full-fledged casinos.
Follow
I
up?
would respectfully disagree. It was a quite comprehensive bill. I was on the bill, and we heard, extensive testimony in relation to that. So I think it's something we visited. I think this might again be an issue that the upcoming commission, Gaming Commission, would look at, but
All right, that's a would you believe question. Representative Almy.
Yeah, I just wanted a clarification. Does this apply only to new casinos?
This bill would apply to anything that's in place at the time of the bill.
Or anything that comes after?
Yeah, or comes after.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, thank you, Representative.
Thank you.
Next, I have Alicia Preston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Alicia Preston. I represent the New Hampshire Charitable Gaming Operators Association, and we are here in opposition to this bill. As we've testified before on other ones, we know of no other industry that is specifically kind of targeted to say you have to pay to the municipality differently than any other business. If you look at the requirement of municipal services from any industry, the charitable gaming facilities are asking no more of any town or city than a bar, a sport venue, a concert venue, or any other entertainment that is out there. So this is very specific to one industry, and for that reason, we do oppose this legislation.
Thank you, Representative Almy.
Yes, that may be true in New Hampshire. It is not true anywhere else. But you were talking about sports venues and things like that. We don't have them in a number of the places where they have put these casinos. And they provided, they stonewalled our zoning committee on I think it was the planning committee, when it came to traffic studies on the major east-west route.
Representative Elmy, can you pull the microphone closer to you?
Sorry. On the major east-west route across New Hampshire to Vermont. We have not seen a lot of extra traffic yet, except when it was opening. I'm not sure how many people are actually going to it, but as our Representative Ohm said, we have historical data now on what happens when casinos move into different kinds of cities. And in every other part of the country, they are collecting this. But we decide in Live Free or Die State that we're not going to do that.
What is your question,
My
Representative?
question is, when you talk about we don't do this, you mean New Hampshire, don't you?
I do.
Thank you.
Yes, Representative Elberger.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for taking my question. You mentioned other kinds of enterprises that are not being asked to pay more, and you specifically mentioned, if I remember correctly, bars, restaurants, and sporting.
And concert venues
And
and any
concert
entertainment
venues.
venue, yes.
Do you have any sense of what the relative revenue, the benefit to the owners of those establishments are compared to gaming? I have no idea.
Not specifically, no. What I know is that as these facilities grow, they pay more property taxes than they did the day before, just like any business that grows. I also know anecdotally, I live at Hampton Beach. We have 2 of these facilities, and I can assure you from my own experience and witness that municipal services are far more required at some of the other entertainment industries that we have there, and they are not specifically required to pay more to the municipality. And again, the bigger the facility, whether it's a bar, restaurant, entertainment venue, or gaming facility, the more property taxes they pay, which more than compensates for any municipal services they would receive. And again, as with all these businesses, they don't put children in the school system, which is the largest cost factor for any municipality in the state.
Thank you for your answer. I don't appreciate the comment about children and
Excuse me,
education.
Representative Elberger. Follow up, Representative Doucette.
Question. So if a business is profitable and one year they make more money than they did last year, do they pay more business tax?
Yes, sir.
Secondarily to that, is there any other business that you know of in the state of New Hampshire that has very strict security requirements to negate what may be an impact on the community? And I'm talking about security presence, physical personnel, cameras on every location, subsequent details that's paid for. I mean, the restrictions that are on this particular industry, is there any other industry in the state that have to meet those requirements?
To my knowledge, no, and those requirements are both in statute and in rules from the Lottery Commission.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I just want to remind members, when we have somebody up, we're there to ask them questions. We're not here to make statements about what we think about what they're saying. Okay, is there anyone else who would like to testify on HB 660? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing on HB 660. Okay, time being 10:25, we've got about 5 minutes before the next hearing. Thank you.
It's a note from DRA about HVAC Q&A that you have on executive. So we just wanted to make sure you had a copy of
Okay.
that feedback.
All right, when did they send this today? Okay. Okay, the time being 10:31, I'm going to open the public hearing on HB 658 FN and welcome up Bob Scully. Is he introducing the bill? Wait a minute. I'm sorry, wait a minute. Who's introducing the bill?
Apparently, we have no one from Environment and Agriculture.
Do we have anyone from Environment and Agriculture or somebody who's introducing this bill? Okay. Was it 18? Or? Representative Malloy will introduce the bill, and I'll just ask you to fill out a pink card later.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dennis Malloy, Greenland Rye. Here to introduce House Bill 658 FN, raising the cap on certain reimbursements from the Oil Discharge and Disposal Cleanup Fund. And I won't take any questions.
Could you explain this to us?
I
I'm just kidding.
Well, I could read the rest of the analysis into the record if you'd like me to.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. You can explain. Okay. Representative Almy, would you like to go up and testify?
With my readers.
Cheaters.
Yeah.
Good morning. Representative Susan Almy.
Can you pull your microphone closer? For some reason, it's not.
Try to pull this strange chair a little bit closer. I just want to explain a little bit about the history of this bill. This disposal, oil discharge, and disposal cleanup fund has been in place at least since 2000. I think probably long before that, and it was created on, we were told, in 2008 when we dealt with this, because it kept on being, its lifespan kept on being extended. And the people behind me would know better why it needs to be extended again. But the fund was created, I believe, at the request of the oil companies, because this is what we were told in 2008, because the insurance companies refused to cover oil spills because they can be incredibly expensive sometimes, and they have no way of telling when they might happen. This particular part of that is about leaky tanks, and particularly people who have tanks that are leaking inside their basements or inside their property that do not have enough money to remediate it. And therefore, if it keeps on leaking, it's going out to the street, it's going out to all the neighbors, and it is a hazard. They may totally refute this when you listen to them, but this is what we were told back in 2008. And it is an insurance policy by the state, paid for by the oil companies at their request. And we keep on thinking that they will run out of leaky tanks. but apparently they are not. And I think you should just listen to DES.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank you.
Representative Allen. And if you'd fill out a pink card as well, I'd appreciate it. Okay, I've got, oh, wait a minute. I guess first we'll hear from Bob Scully.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, I appear in support of House Bill 658 FN. I am here representing the Energy Marketers Association of New Hampshire, which is an association of home heating oil companies throughout our state of New Hampshire. So this fund is actually collected as an import fee on the fuel that comes into the state, is how this revenue is generated. If you look at lines 18 through 21 on the bill, you'll see different areas of products of fuel. Depending on the amount of product that comes in is where they generate the funds from. And these numbers in this proposed legislation has been massaged a little bit. Some of it goes up, some of it goes down. In relationship to underground storage tanks that fail, this fund was set up to try to provide revenue to help mitigate environmental hazards, to help replace tanks for those individuals that could not afford to do so. And some people's insurance do cover it, but we work with Department of Environmental Services to try to ensure that we limit and we provide financial assistance to those who need it to replace tanks. And the industry does support this bill, but just to be clear, all these little add-ons or that you see in this bill eventually do make their way down to the consumer. I mean, it's not eaten by the oil company. So I'm happy to try to answer any questions. I know DES is behind me, and they can probably go into very distinct detail for you.
Right. Representative Elberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for taking my question. As I'm looking at the rates, you mentioned that they're going up and down. Some are going up and some are down. As far as I'm able to interpret, and that's not this is my forte here, it looks like the part that is going up is, or one of the parts that's going up is for the on-premise heating. That's the second set of numbers that's listed.
Let's see. On line 20,
On line 19.
line 19. Yes, that the number is going up, and that is
It's home heating oil.
yes, correct.
How was why are these particular numbers changing in the direction they are?
Well,
I'm just trying to understand
So there's what's called an odd fund committee, a group that meets. They're the ones that put this together. I am not on that committee. Representative Edgar, the prime sponsor of the bill, sits in that committee along with Senator Howard Pearl. And my discussion with both of them was that this is what that committee hashed out. Probably also, I think they sat down with someone that helped do an audit of their work to make recommendations in my brief discussions with them on these numbers and the trending of where these numbers are going to try to make sure that this fund stays solvent. That's the extent of my knowledge.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Representative Opal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for taking my question. And perhaps if you can answer it, the representative from DES can. But I'm a little confused, and I'm not a lawyer, so it's probably not surprising. But on line 15, it says any person who imports or causes to be imported oil into the state, except those using oil pipelines, railroads, and highways to transport oil products between states other than New Hampshire or for international transport. So am I understanding that the only people who have to get licenses are people who are not importing oil from other states or internationally, or?
I'm going to defer to them, Representative, if that's okay. Thanks.
Mr. Chair, if I could defer my question till the next witness.
That is fine, yes. I was just texting the prime sponsor to see if he's available to come down as well. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, the other two pink cards I have are from NHDES, so I'd invite you both up, Robert Bishop and Jennifer Martz. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Mr. Chair.
Could you put this speaker on? Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Robert Bishop. I'm the administrator of the Oil Remediation and Compliance Bureau at the Department of Environmental Services. Joining me is Jennifer Martz. She is our Fund Management Section Supervisor at the Department of Environmental Services. The Oil Fund Disbursement Board, from which this bill originated, is administratively attached by statute to the Department of Environmental Services. We carry out the administrative processes of what the Oil Fund Disbursement Board requests that we do. This bill impacts two different funds. It impacts the Oil Discharge and Disposal Cleanup Fund, as well as the Oil Pollution Control Fund. And it makes 4 changes to the existing statutes. Those changes are, one, to change the due date of an annual report, the other to raise the cap on reimbursements for low-income homeowners for tank replacement when they have a home heating oil tank that is suspect and may leak. It also extends the collection of these fees for 10 years. The previous bill has an intentional sunset of 10 years, as does this proposed bill. And then it adjusts the fees on the various types of petroleum and all petroleum in general that's imported into the state. In the statutory purpose of both funds, it's to cope with the problem of oil spills. Petroleum used so much throughout society, and the general court saw that there was a problem with petroleum products and the impact that they could have on human health and the environment, groundwater resources, drinking water resources. I call it the ODD fund, so that's the one administered by the Oil Fund Disbursement Board, Oil Discharge Disposal Fund. It reimburses responsible parties for costs to remediate oil spills at compliant tank storage facilities. So that is the actual cost of corrective action. And what this is excess insurance. So if there's any insurance available, that will cover that cost of remediation. If that insurance doesn't exist or is expended, then the ODD fund comes in and pays for those corrective action costs at these oil spill sites. Also, the ODD fund helps to prevent oil spill releases, part of our prevention program, including that aforementioned Safe Tank program, which is the replacement of home heating oil tanks for low-income homeowners. And it satisfies both federal and state financial responsibility requirements for owners of underground storage tank facilities. As was mentioned previously, that it was at one point, and I'm not sure about the difficulty currently to obtain insurance for underground storage tank systems, but there was this requirement put on federally to have money, financial assurance, to be able to pay for release from your UST. And this fund also satisfies that requirement. The Oil Pollution Control Fund, the other fund that's affected by this bill, is for the agency's emergency response, spill response, and prevention efforts. So that includes, that's financial support for a 24-hour a day, 7-day per week, 365-day per year spill response program, primarily responding to petroleum releases, but about 90% of the releases we respond to are petroleum. And there are about 300 responses that are performed per year to those spills, primarily of petroleum releases. For this committee, I believe the important part to know is about those fee changes and those expenses. And the Oil Fund Disbursement Board hired Taylor and Mulder, an actuarial firm, to review the anticipated expenditures of the odd fund. And that was using information going back 10 years, information compiled by the department on current sites, information about future use and exposure depending on types of tanks and tank systems that are in place. And then compared that to oil import volumes along with U.S. Energy Information Administration data on fuel usage in New Hampshire, both for gas and diesel, so motor fuel as well as home heating oil fuel. And with that, they tried to balance which category of fee pays for which type of spill. So gas and diesel paying for releases from tanks that have gas and diesel fuel. Home heating oil paying for releases, or fuel oil paying for releases from on-premise use facilities, which are typically home heating oil tanks. Motor oil paying for releases from motor oil tanks. And then there's one other fee, and it's called all other oil in the bill or in the statute, but it's actually on all oil, and that portion there is for the Oil Pollution Control Fund. That is the spill response side of operations. That explains some of the strange numbers going out to far decimal points, and that this was based on an actuarial review and was attempting to balance those costs across the different types of oil that's imported into the state. And with that, they were looking at after this 10-year time period when this statute will sunset again, that we were left with enough to pay that fiscal year's administrative costs, as well as a quarter of the anticipated reimbursements for a fiscal year. So those are the corrective action reimbursements. And currently, we maintain a balance of $1.5 million in order to have the first 3 days of a major coastal oil spill covered in that Oil Pollution Control Fund, because we could see the state having to pay those first expenses until the Federal Oil Spill Liability Trust Fund comes in and starts paying for those major spills. We have quite a bit of oil stored along the Piscataqua River, and that is the reason for having that balance in order to be able to address those first few days of an oil spill. I know there were some questions asked before the other commenters, and I may need a reminder on those questions.
Okay, thank you. I just want to ask, the actuarial review, are these recommended new changes from that review process?
The actuarial review came out with them exactly balanced, and the Oil Fund Disbursement Board looked at that, and they found that the fuel oil fee was going to have to go up over 200% to pay for those releases from on-premise use facilities, home heating oil. That is our largest category of new releases that occur. There are about 100 a year in that category. For all of our other tank systems that are eligible, the number of spills that occur from those systems is typically less than 10 total per year. And those systems have regulations that are enforced by the Department of Environmental Services, so gas stations. They have regulations they have to adhere to. Regulations applying to home heating oil systems are strictly within the National Fire Protection Association standards, and those have minimal enforcement or requirements with those. And so the board decided that it was going to be too much to balance that, particularly on the fuel oil side. So they proposed that the fuel oil fee goes up 100% instead of that 200, I think, and 18%, so more than doubling, and rebalance the other fees based on that. So that continued to result in the gas and diesel fee dropping. It was going to drop a little bit more if those particular spills were balanced across the fees types. So that is the difference from what the actual review found.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Representative Opal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you. I had the unfortunate experience in 2010 of spending a significant portion of my summer helping the Secretary of the Navy develop a recovery plan for the Gulf Coast in the wake of the Deepwater Horizon spill, and I became way too familiar with the Oil Spill Liability Trust Fund, which, as I am trying to remember 15 years ago, as I understood the fund, it was created to deal with spills for which there was no identifiable responsible party. Is that your understanding?
Well, so there can be identifiable responsible parties, but they are potential responsible parties until the legal process works through. And so they're.
Right, so there'd be reimbursement.
Yes,
Excuse
that
me.
trust fund will come in and it will pay reimbursed state costs.
Mr. Chair, a follow-up.
Follow-up?
So what I was trying to get to in my other question was, as I read lines 13 through 15 or 16, I guess, I'm not clear who is covered here. It sounds like, well, I'm just not clear who's covered. It sounds like anybody who brings it in by rail, pipe, or highway, which, other than port, that's the only one that's left out. So, I mean, are we trying to just cover the ports, or?
So what this covers is oil that its destination of use is in New Hampshire. Oil that just passes through the state as part of commerce doesn't get an oil import fee. So if it goes into a gas station in the state, goes into a home heating oil tank, it's going to get used in New Hampshire, then that applies. I believe this is an interstate commerce issue and why that is carved out.
Yeah. One more follow-up, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and I'll just remind members too, the policy committee, we're a second committee. The policy committee has given their okay on, I forget what the vote was, 18-0 or whatever. We're focused on, do these numbers make sense? Go ahead, Representative Opal.
What I was going to ask, Mr. Chair, is if it's possible to obtain the numbers that back up the data here. In other words, over the last 10 years, your actuarials used information regarding how many spills, how many claims, how much was, appropriated or spent, and how you came to that. And I just would make that request.
Yes, we can provide the actuarial report. It is, I believe, a 60-plus page report. I have the 26-page executive summary of it here with me. But happy to provide that, and that is using a number of different data sources and actuarial techniques to come up with the projections.
I'd be fine with the executive summary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Orrs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for taking my question. So real quick, you said there's about 100 private spills a year that are identified. Are we identifying these through a dying system or whatever? And is there a preventative plan to clean this mess up so we're not dealing with it after the fact?
So there are a few different caveat or places within the answer to that. The home heating oil releases, of which typically 100 a year, and probably about 60 to 70 of those are paid for through this fund. Those get called in typically by the homeowner or the fire department, and they call into DES, and our spill response team goes to that home and assists the homeowner with the things that they need to do to have that spill properly remediated and to ensure that it doesn't have a long-term impact on their groundwater or their indoor air quality within the house. That fuel is dyed, but that dye is for other tax purposes that are federal, so it's dyed red. The home heating oil, it's essentially diesel fuel. It's the same type of fuel. Then we have the universe of tanks that are regulated, such as the gas station underground storage tanks. And there are significant federal and both state regulations. The state regulations are authorized through the federal process to take their place. And we get very few spills, so less than 10 a year total from all of those. And typically, those spills no longer are coming from the tank. They're usually coming from the piping or a sump or something associated with the tank, or an overfill when the delivery truck comes and drops the fuel into that underground storage tank. So the category of home heating oil, there are just not regulations that apply there to prevent those spills.
Okay, follow up.
So are most of the home heating oil incidences, are they the result of sloppiness or degenerating tanks or pipes or?
Yes. The majority of the spills are from the tanks rusting from the inside out, and then having a pinhole leak or something that's larger. It's in a basement or it's outside and it doesn't get noticed right away until all 275 gallons have been released out of the tank.
Representative Breyer.
Yeah, just on line 13, I think it's beginning section 3. And then on line 28, section 4 on the Oil Pollution Control Fund, you have a effective date of July 1st of 2025. And I understand why that is. But my question is, when you talk to safety about the collection process, I believe there's like 234 oil discharge and pollution accounts on about 135 distributors approximately. And my question is, usually they have a little lead time where they got to notify the distributors about the change in the tax rate. They also have to call the vendor to make sure that they have time to update the system. And the third thing is sometimes the distributors in the oil pollution controls need a little lead time to update their accounting tax software systems. So my only concern is on those two sections, did safety give you any indication of the lead time they needed to, I'm just saying this July 1st thing might be a little tight by the time this passes and gets, if this passes and gets signed by the governor, how much lead time does the Department of Safety have to implement these changes?
We haven't had that discussion with the Department of Safety as of yet. We do have a member of the Department of Safety on the Oil Fund Disbursement Board, Jennifer Hall, and I think that's a good thing for us to bring up with her.
Jennifer actually reached out to me and asked the question when everything was going to be finalized. So we're in discussion right now. Jennifer Hall and I are in discussion for her. So she's talking to me about the lead time. We haven't talked about an exact date, but I have had discussion with her.
Mr. Chairman, follow up?
Follow up.
So I understand this whole, I'm very familiar with this subject, and my only concern is that, and I'm thinking that you might need an amendment to compensate for that lead time to give the departments enough time to implement this properly so they can notify their taxpayers or licensees. And I'm just thinking there should be some sort of amendment to account for that administrative time.
Representative Ullery.
Yeah. If this were to pass with the timeline we have now, all that means, is it not correct that all that means is that then the board would be able to implement immediately any changes that they pass through the regular administrative process?
I think I need that clarified.
I'm trying to address the issue of time and lead and everything else. Once the law is in effect, then the board can put it into effect when they set their own rules and change rates. Is that correct?
I believe the way it's written, it will go into effect on July 1st, 2025.
Follow up? Yeah, follow up. Anyway, once it's in effect, then the boards would set the dates and times and everything else for the implementation of what was in effect. It's not an instantaneous, we're going to do it at this date, because you still have your administrative process, correct?
I don't know the answer to that.
I think what he's trying to what he's trying to get to is if the date is still set at July 1st, does the in the billing process behind the scenes, could this be taken care of? In other words, it's like, okay, you can notify people that the price went up, but you may still be billing them at the old price, but at the next bill it'd be caught up. So instead of us doing an amendment, can this be handled internally?
I believe that would be reasonable and that would be available to the board. It'd be the board's decision on how they implement that.
Okay. Representative Ulrich.
Yeah, to get back on topic of what we're dealing with. This particular bill raises and lowers some effects, some different charges in different areas. This is a realignment of the actual cost to do the work that the odd people do.
Yes.
So it's essentially housekeeping and construction. That is, it's making an adjustment up and down to cover the needs of the odd board to do the work that is being done.
Yes, that is correct.
Is this a follow-up?
Follow-up.
Is this a general increase to the consumer or decrease, or where are we in that scale?
Yes, this results in an 8% overall increase of total import fee revenue.
Follow-up?
Yes. When you say import fee revenue, we're now talking about any oil product that is brought into the state, either by truck or by ship or train. Well, I suppose some train cars, I doubt that. That is sold at the pump. So the fee per gallon of a gasoline is not necessarily reflected, because this would apply across gasoline, petroleum, oil, household oil, oil that's sold in cans at the O'Reilly's or wherever. Oil you get put in if you're too damn lazy to change it yourself or don't want to get cold laying on your back. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So that 8% is on the wholesale cost, not the retail cost. Is that correct?
I don't think I'm in the best position to answer that question, as I'm not a retailer and I don't sell these products, and I don't know how they manage these costs.
Thank you.
Representative Elmy.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we could delay execing this bill and ask for clarification from the odd fund itself, whether it would need an amendment put on this to delay the requirement for the changes in the funding until there was time to finish doing it, or whether they can handle it internally.
We can do that. We have a board meeting coming up at the end of this month with the Oil Fund Disbursement Board.
That's too late.
That won't fit.
We have to get the bill out before then.
Okay.
So,
We'll figure that out.
yeah.
All right. Any other
Maybe
questions?
We can talk to the local sponsors.
All right. I'm going to close the public hearing on HB 658. All right. Okay, we're going, Republicans are going into caucus, Dems as well. We will come back here at 11:20. No, we're staying here. We will reconvene, we will come back at 11:20 sharp, because we need to get going on this. Thank you. Well, let's, the first one is, okay, the time being 11:23, we will get started with our executive session. I'm going to open the exec session on HB 155 and recognize Representative Breyer for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to retain.
Do I have a second? All right, Representative Schamberg seconds it. Would you like to speak to your retained motion?
I just think that we should retain it to see how revenues do over the next year and take a closer look at this legislation before we make a decision on it.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, they'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are voting on House Bill 155 relative to the rate of the business enterprise tax. The motion is retain. Representative Ulrey.
Aye.
Representative Doucette.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Sodi.
Yes.
Representative Orrs.
Yes.
Representative Stephen Smith.
Yes.
Representative Tierney.
He's out.
Representative Breyer.
Yes.
Representative Ford.
Yes.
Representative Murphy.
Yes.
Representative Almy.
Yes.
Representative Hawken Phillips.
Yes.
Representative Malloy.
Yes.
Representative Schomburg.
Yes.
Representative Lovett.
Yes.
Representative Elberger.
Yes.
Representative Davis.
Yes.
Representative Oppel.
Yes.
Representative Spar.
Yes.
Chairman Sinagian.
Yes.
I have 19.
Makes sense. The vote being 19-0 for retain, the committee will retain HB 155, and I will close the exec session on HB 155. Next, I will open the executive session on HB 417 and recognize Representative Breyer for a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to retain.
Do I have a second? Second by Representative Almy. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Kind of the same thing as the previous one. Let's see how revenues come in this year and take a look at it next year and see how things pan out.
Sounds good. Any other comments? Representative Almy?
There was something that came up in the hearing about a complicated interaction with allowing municipal valuation of poles and conduits that would have to be solved if this was repealed. But maybe if we decided we wanted to do that, we could solve that too. Oh, maybe this complicated interaction with allowing municipal valuation of poles and conduits that they've been trying to get forever could be solved if we were going to figure out we didn't really need the revenue next year.
Thank you. Anybody else? Representative Breyer, did you have something else, or
I'm fine.
your microphone is on? Okay. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are voting on House Bill 417. The motion is retain. The bill is relative to the repealing of the communications service tax. Representative Ulrey.
Yes.
Representative Doucette.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Sodi.
Yes.
Representative Orrs.
Yes.
Representative Smith Stephen.
Yes.
Representative Tierney. Out. Representative Breyer.
Yes.
Representative Ford.
Yes.
Representative Murphy.
Yes.
Representative Almy.
Yes.
Representative Hawken Phillips.
Yes.
Representative Malloy.
Yes.
Representative Schomburg.
Yes.
Representative Lovett.
Yes.
Representative Elberger,
Yes.
Representative Davis,
Yes.
Representative Uppel.
Longo. Opal. Yes.
Thank you. Representative Opel votes yes. Representative Spar,
Yes.
Chairman Janigian,
Yes.
19-0.
The vote being 19-0, the committee will retain HB 417, and I'll close the exec session on that. Next up, I'll open the exec session on HB 585 and recognize Representative Breyer for a motion.
I'll make a motion to retain this bill.
Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Schamberg seconds the motion. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, based on testimony and it seems like there's some things that need to be worked out on this bill before before it's recommended to pass. And I think that we should take a second look at it and see what we can do to make the bill better.
Thank you. Anybody else? And I'll just mention that this is a bill that I sponsored, and there are a couple of other bills floating around. Representative Pearson has a bill that is similar that'll be in the House before this bill, and while it doesn't have everything this bill has in it, by retaining it, we can see how things go there and work on this in the future. Anybody else? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are voting on House Bill 585 relative to the property tax exemption for religious organizations. The motion is retain. Representative Ulrey,
Yes.
Representative Doucette.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Sodi.
Yes.
Representative Orrs.
Yes.
Representative Stephen Smith. Representative Tierney. Out. Representative Breyer.
Yes.
Representative Mary Ford.
Yes.
Representative Murphy.
Yes.
Representative Almy.
Yes.
Representative Hawken Phillips.
Yes.
Representative Malloy.
Yes.
Representative Schomburg.
Yes.
Representative Lovett.
Yes.
Representative Elberger.
Yes.
Representative Davis.
Yes.
Representative Opel.
Thank you. Yes.
Representative Spar.
Yes.
Chairman Janigian.
Yes.
Kirk Clounce 19-0.
Okay, the vote being 19-0 on retain, this bill, HB 585, will be retained, and I'll close the exec session on it. Next, I will open the exec session on HB 658 and recognize Representative Breyer for a motion.
I'll make a motion to pass on House Bill 658.
Do I have a second? Representative Doucette seconds it. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, what this does is it makes some adjustments to the environmental fees that are collected for the oil disposal and pollution control fund. It's basically housekeeping, and there's some adjustments to fees to cover the cost to ensure on-premise heating systems, oil tanks, and cleaning up oil spills.
Thank you. Representative Doucette?
Yeah, just for clarity, Mr. Chairman, the issue we heard in the testimony is apparently something that can be addressed in the other body. So whatever concerns might be with the implementation of this,
Okay.
if there is a concern.
Yeah. Representative Elmy?
You have guarantees of that?
The issue was possibly my understanding was the date, and it possibly can be handled within the department, but if not, then the other body could potentially change that date.
There would have to be two dates. One that extended the life of the program, and then the second one to set in motion all of the funding. So I would hope that at this point, the people that are listening could go and work on that issue in order to bring it to the Senate, because the Senate probably won't think of it.
Okay. Representative Breyer.
It's my understanding that Senator Pearl sits on the Oil Fund Disbursement Board, and that there's the ability, as Representative Elmy pointed out, there is two issues. There's the sunset. That needs to be straightened out immediately, but also the other piece is when the rates go in effect, they just need my estimation would be like 60 days to just clean up some of the administrative stuff to notify everybody and change the system. And I believe that that can be adjusted in the Senate.
Well, and based on what we heard about when this next meeting would be, that would fit in the time frame for the Senate, but not for us. And could you also follow up with Senator Pearl?
I can.
Okay, thank you. All right, anybody else? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are voting, the motion is ought to pass on House Bill 658, raising the cap of certain reimbursements from the Oil Discharge and Disposal Cleanup Fund. Representative Ulrey.
Yes.
Representative Doucette.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Sodi.
Yes.
Representative Ors.
Yes.
Representative Stephen Smith.
No.
Representative Tierney is absent. Representative Breyer.
Yes.
Representative Ford.
Yes.
Representative Murphy.
Yes.
Representative Almy.
Yes.
Representative Hawken Phillips.
Yes.
Representative Malloy.
Yes.
Representative Schomburg.
Yes.
Representative Lovett.
Yes.
Representative Elberger.
Yes.
Representative Davis.
Yes.
Representative Opel.
Yes.
Representative Spar.
Yes.
Chairman Janigian.
Yes.
Clerk counts 18-1.
Okay, the vote being 18-1. It, well, it cannot go on consent because it's, has an FN. So it passes, and we'll close the exec session on HB 658. Will there be a minority report? I'm guessing no. Will there be a minority report? Okay. Okay, next I'll open the exec session on HB 660 and recognize Representative Ohm.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I vote to retain this bill. I believe the bill needs some additional work on the
Do we have-
terms.
Okay, hold on. Do I have a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Representative Schamberg. And would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as we just heard, I think the bill needs some work, and I vote to retain the bill for that additional work.
Anybody else? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll.
We're voting on House Bill 660, requiring historic horse racing facilities to compensate their host communities with a percentage of the revenue generated from their HHR machines. The motion is retained. Representative Ulrey.
Yes.
Representative Doucette.
Yes.
Clerk votes yes. Representative Sodi.
Yes.
Representative Ors.
Yes.
Representative Stephen Smith.
Yes.
Representative Tierney is absent. Representative Breyer.
Yes.
Representative Ford.
Yes.
Representative Murphy.
Yes.
Representative Almy.
Yes.
Representative Hawken Phillips.
Yes.
Representative Malloy.
Yes.
Representative Schomburg.
Yes.
Representative Lovett.
Yes.
Representative Elberger.
Yes.
Representative Davis.
Yes.
Representative Opel.
Aye.
Representative Spar.
Yes.
Chairman Janigian.
Yes.
I count 19-0.
The vote being 19-0, HB 660 is retained in committee, and I'll close the exec session on it. I will now open the exec session on HB 688 and recognize Representative Ors for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I motion that this legislation is inexpedient to legislate.
Do I have a second? The motion's ITL. Do I
I'll
have a
second.
Second by Representative Breyer. And would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm just, I see this as an unnecessary tax increase directed specifically at a particular industry.
Thank you. Any other? Representative Almy?
Yes, I feel that that the sponsor, who I co-sponsored with, is searching for a way to get municipalities the compensation that they deserve to have for containing a casino in their grounds. And I don't want to see too many of these bills go forward. So I'm happy with the ITL.
Okay. Representative Opal?
Oh.
Okay, no problem. Seeing no other questions or comments, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The motion is ITL on House Bill 688, authorizing municipalities to tax charitable gaming facilities based on their enterprise value. Representative Ulrey.
Yes.
Representative Doucette.
Yes.
Prime sponsor votes yes. Representative Sodi.
Yes.
Representative Ors.
Yes.
Representative Smith. Yes. Representative Tierney is absent. Representative Breyer.
Yes.
Representative Ford.
Yes.
Representative Murphy.
Yes.
Representative Almy.
Yes.
Representative Hawken Phillips.
Yes.
Representative Malloy.
Yes.
Representative Schaumburg.
No.
Representative Representative Lovett.
Yes.
Representative Elberger.
No.
Representative Davis.
Yes.
Representative Opal.
Aye.
Representative Spar.
Yes.
Chairman Janigian.
Yes.
I count 17-2.
Seventeen to 2. Okay, the vote being 17-2. Is there objection to consent by those who voted no? No objection to consent. Okay. It's ITL though. We learned that last time. Okay. Question by Representative Ulrey.
Is anyone going to write a report or?
Well, if it's going on consent, I would say no. No, I'm sorry. It's still going to have a report. I thought you meant a minority report. Representative Ors will write the report for the majority. Okay, it'll go on consent. And I'll close the executive session on HB 688. All right, last but not least, I'll open the exec session on HB 737 and recognize Representative Doucette.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move ITL on HB 737.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Representative Murphy beat you to it. Would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This exact same language is covered in HB 247, which got unanimous OTP vote yesterday, so there's no need for this piece.
Okay, anybody else? Yes, Representative Elmy?
I didn't quite understand that. Somebody had a session yesterday?
EDA.
Today.
Municipal and county,
Municipal and county has the same bill. Is
yes,
that what you're saying?
same language, same exact language.
Okay, and they did what?
It unanimously got passed out of committee, ought to pass. I have it right here, Representative.
Okay.
I can ship it down your way if you like.
How,
Anyone else?
did someone amend it?
Did it get amended? That's the amendment.
The amendment is what passed,
Yes.
and we don't have time to read it, but,
What are the differences between the two?
yeah.
Do we know the differences?
My understanding is that the original language did not cover the applicants that are in the queue for the HHR, so they corrected that with the amendment, so it doesn't add anybody but includes everybody that's qualifies.
Thank you. I thought that that was covered by existing language, but
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Representative
As
Elberger.
I just took thank you. I just took a quick look online, and unless the amendment changes the language, it says it only authorizes a referendum regarding historic horse racing.
I think
Is
the
that all
amendments.
that's covered under games of chance?
Let's, why don't we take 5 minutes to look at that amendment?
yeah. We don't have
What?
a lot of copies.
Yeah, it says games of chance versus horse racing, and they're not the same, correct?
They are the same,
It
I'm
just
not sure
talks
if the
about
amendment
historic
covers
horse
that.
racing.
but as far as I'm concerned, that's an improvement. Because a lot of people find poker a innocuous game.
Would it
Representative Elberger.
would this cover slots or the new machines that the governor is proposing in her budget? And if not, I don't see these as equivalent.
Representative Doucette, do you, no? Representative Ulrich.
Representative Doucette, you mentioned that the action by municipal and county negated the need for this bill, but are there other reasons that this bill should not be passed by this committee? Yes.
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, I would like to ask that this bill be moved to the next executive session so that we have time to absorb this.
Can I see that, Bill, for a minute?
Yeah. It's, the amendment is a full new page of material.
Representative Olney, is it appropriate for our, us to call a caucus to have some time to review this before if the chairman is inclined to call the vote.
Didn't speak up.
I'm going to recess this bill to the next executive session.
Mr. Chairman, procedurally,
Yeah.
there was a motion and a second. Do we have to remove that?
Nope.
That,
You-
yes.
Representative Doucette, this, at the next executive session, when it comes up, this will come up, and the motion on the floor is ITL.
We're covering the bases here, that's all.
Yeah. Okay, well, that closes that concludes today's session, or committee meeting, I should say. I do have a couple of other items to mention. Next week, my plan will be to schedule this bill, as well as, I mean, at this point now, we've got 9 bills left in the committee that we haven't acted upon, but we just did 6 just now, so we're down to 3. This will be one of the things we take up next Monday, the 10th. And I know I had said previously that I'll try not to schedule Mondays. However, Tuesday, the 11th is town meeting day and voting, and the speaker's preference is for us to try not to schedule committees on March 11th, which is Tuesday. So I'm planning on, I'll schedule something for Monday, the 10th. And the things that we will take up will be this bill and anything else remaining needed to be done bill-wise, as well as we will look at the appropriate portions of HB2, which are pertinent to Ways and Means. And so that will be, what you'll see is that'll be recorded as a work session on a full committee work session on the relevant parts of HB2 to Ways and Means. And we will, and then we don't actually, we may vote, but it's more to just get our thoughts so I can transfer that to the Finance Committee, our thoughts on the Ways and Means portion. And I will send out, so it'll be general like that in the calendar, but I'll send out the pages that are relevant in the HB2 to the committee so you'll know what to look at. Representative Elmy.
Thank you. I had heard a rumor, or two rumors actually, that Finance was sending us the slot machine bill that the governor included to take a look at.
We will look at, well, are you talking
We
about
don't know.
HB2?
Yeah, HB2.
That's part of what we're going to look at. Yeah.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. And I guess lastly, I heard some desire to have a field trip to the Nash. And I know the local Nashua people were thinking about doing that, but maybe it's good for the full committee. How do people, I guess by show of hands, who would be interested in?
Free food.
That's today only.
No, we don't have it scheduled. It's just, it would be a field, the Nash is a casino in Nashua.
Nashua.
Thus the word Nash.
And it's 2.5 hours away from my house.
Is it? Well, you may not be someone who wants to
Drive
go.
faster.
Okay. All right, just a show of hands, who thinks they're interested? I mean, you're not committing, but, okay, so there's general interest. All right, thank you.
Quarters are available at the door.
We'll see what we can, talk to Jordan. Have anything else? Representative Opal?
Is the intent to meet at 10 on Monday, the 10th?
The intent would be to meet at 10 on Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
And likely,
And-
we're doing HB2 also go all day.
It's, I would plan on a day. We don't know what, I haven't thought of the order yet of how it will be, but, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
my understanding on the way that it's being set up to review HB2 is that it's reviewing only the revenues and estimates, not the policy. That's going to be whatever it is.
Anybody else with questions? Yes, Representative Elberger.
Mr. Chairman, are you going to get in touch with the Nash, or do you want some of the Nashua reps to do it?
That'd be great if, we'll talk about that offline.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, yes, Representative Breyer.
When do you need that majority report on
Thank you. Yes.
558?
Actually, are there any minority reports? Let's see.
No minority report.
Looks like no minority reports. Is that correct? It looks like based on the votes here. Okay. So there are there's only two majority reports, Representative Orrs and Representative Breyer. When can you get it done? ASAP is always nice. Okay, so today being Tuesday,
Before noon tomorrow.
if you can get it to me, right, before noon tomorrow, that would be preferable. Especially if it's early in the morning tomorrow, that would be much appreciated. If you do it now, great. Okay. Thank you. That's all I have.